Hello learners, welcome to this session. This session is of the course Master of Arts in Sustainability Science program MSD 020, that is Population, Health and Sustainability. Also, the learners of the appreciation course on population and sustainable development will be benefited by listening and viewing today's session. So learners, today we will be talking about a very important issue. We'll be talking about the population. We will discuss about the scenario of population in the world and India, what are the consequences, what gives rise to huge number of people on the planet, what are the adverse effects of high population growth rate. So learners, the topic of today's session is a world of 8 billion people, challenges and opportunities. You must be aware that on 15th November 2022, the world hit the 8 billion mark. That means the population of the world was at 8 billion. So many number of individuals living on the planet, sharing the limited resources. Is it a challenge or it is an opportunity for us to explore so that we can make maximum utilization of this great human resource that we have on the planet? Learners, first of all, let us understand how does this population grow? What has happened? It is 8 billion in 2022. So, how far we have come? Interestingly, when you look at the statistics, when you look at the numbers basically, what we understand is that the world population grew from 1 billion to 2 billion and it took 120 years to grow from 1 billion to 2 billion. If you look at the case today, in 2011, we were 7 billion and in 2022, we were 8 billion. So it took just 12 years to grow from this number. In 1987, the world population was 5 billion and that was the time when we realized that the huge population is a problem. So learners, what I am trying to do is that I am trying to draw your attention towards the fact that the way by which we were growing was very fast in the beginning. But the trends in the growth of the population has been such that now from 5 billion to 6 billion to 6 billion to 7 billion, from 7 billion to 8 billion, we are growing very fast. It is taking 11 years, 12 years just to jump from 1 billion to another. Yesterday we celebrated World Population Day. Every year on 11th July, the World Population Day is celebrated. And the day makes us conscious of the efforts that need to be taken so as to look at the population issue not just from the numbers point of view, but also to see that how we are able to provide equal opportunities, to provide them all the necessary resources which are living. So again, what the figures say is that world population, when you further dissect this information, so see here I am just talking about the numbers, and it is predicted that by 2050 it will be around 9.5 billion and somewhere around 2080 we will be around 10 billion people. So that means for coming decades, it is sure that the world population will continue to grow. However, the studies and the predictions indicate that from 8 billion to 9 billion, it will be taking somewhere around 14 to 15 years to reach 9 billion mark. So, further when you look into these figures, you realize that although the world population will continue to grow for some decades or so, but the regions where the population will be growing, the patterns which will be observed, they will be starkly different. Another thing which is clearly highlighted is that in majority of the regions of the world, despite the fact that the birth rate is continuously declining, we are seeing an upward trend of the world population. Now, for this, there may be so many factors which are responsible for this situation. So, let us further look at the historical account of the growth in the population. We know that after the World War II, we are adding 1 billion people after every 12 years and 15 years. And if you look at the scenarios in 1970, you know the average number of children born to a woman in 1970 was 4.5, and in 2015 it was 2.3. So what does it clearly indicate is that there has been a gradual decline in the number of the children, average number of children born to a woman. But because of the earlier patterns, because of the more number of people in the reproductive age, or because of the term which we call as population momentum, the population continues to grow. And the same is the case with India, and the same patterns we are seeing in the globe also. When we were discussing about the growth of population from 7 billion to 8 billion, which has come now, it has clearly being pointed out that 70% of this growth has occurred in the low income groups, in the low income countries. And further, from 8 billion to 9 billion the population, 90% of that population growth will be happening in the poor countries. That is the difference, and therefore that is what it has been mentioned, that from 1951 to 1961 the population increased rapidly, and therefore it was very common to use the term population explosion. This was the time there was an advancement in the medical facilities, there was an increase in the life expectancy of the people, we were able to conquer many of the deadly diseases, and also because of the spread of education and somewhat upliftment of the women, the birth rate declined. Because of these factors, learners, you must have studied about demographic transition. Demographic transition tells us about the various stages of the population growth. And when you look at these stages of the population growth, it becomes very clear that there has been the stages of high birth rate and the high death rate also. Then there were stages of low birth rate and low death rate also. And likewise, there has been low birth rate and high death rate in post-industrialized phenomena which is predicted. So, because of these stages, now this was a time where the population explosion. And another interesting thing which we observe is that we live in a demographically divided world. The growth in the number of people or the population growth is not uniform across the regions or the countries. Therefore, in Europe, the median age is 41 years, and like that in sub-Saharan Africa, the median age is 17 years. As I mentioned just now, that the growth of the population which has happened just now from 7 to 8 billion and which is predicted from 8 to 9 billion has been there mostly in the developing countries or the low income countries. That clearly indicates that there are regions like Nigeria which are having a huge population. On the other hand, we have certain European countries where the population is drastically reducing, where you find that the elderly population is more. And because of these factors, the same is the case with our country also, because here also we have the states like Kerala where since 1980s the population, the replacement level fertility is 2.1 or below 2.1. However, there are also states like Uttar Pradesh and Bihar where the replacement level fertility is still above 2.1. So that means, what does it indicate? Why it is imperative for us to understand that we live in a demographically divided world? Because when we find that we have different groups, different subsections of the population residing in different regions of the world, where we find that the population growth is not uniform, then the age structures are also very different. Therefore, from one stick we cannot handle all the situations. Therefore, it is very important for us to remember what kind of policies are we framing, what objectives are we keeping in our mind, what measures are we taking for the upliftment of the people. Because at one end, as I mentioned, that there are countries where the median age is very high, there are countries where the median age is very small. That means there are elder people, there are young people, there are small children, they are scattered. So it is very important that when we do studies of population like that, it is important for us to consider what kind of population structure is there. Further, if you look at the scenario of India, if you look into India's scenario, what we find is that India has, when we hit the 8 billion mark, we surpassed China. We became the most populous country of the world. Further, it is also clear that in our country also there is a stark difference between the population structures across the north and the south, across the east and the west. 68% of India's population belongs to 15 to 64 years category, and 26% is in this age group of 20 to 24 years group. And it is for this reason that we say that we are a young country. We are a country where young population is more, and according to National Family Health Survey data, for the first time the replacement level fertility is 2.1, below this thing. That indicates, what does it mean? The replacement level fertility indicates that during the entire reproductive age of a woman, how many children are born. If it is below 2.1, that means that the average number of children born to a woman in India has drastically declined. The birth rate has declined, and that indicates that in the decades to come, definitely we will be seeing a decline in the population. However, for certain years it is not going to happen. Our population will continue to grow till 2060, and then there will be a stable population. But till then also we can rest assured that the birth rate is continuously declining. So according to UN, it has been estimated that we would be reaching 1.6 billion in 2050, and before settling at 1.53 billion in 2100. So that one of the most important phenomena, or you can say feature of India's population, is that we have the window of opportunity. We have the window where we have the young population who we call it as the working age. Now, that working age is a boon to us because by providing them good education, employment opportunities, health status improvement can lead to making full utilization of this huge number of people which we have in our country. So therefore, we must understand that what kind of measures are we taking today so as to make use of this demographics that we have in our country. Another thing which we must remember that what actually determines the population at a given place. Learners, you must be aware of the terms like fertility, natality and migration. Just to give you an idea further about what these terms mean, when it comes to discussing about population or when we talk about population increase in a certain country, we must have the information about the birth rate, that is number of births per 1,000 people in a given population, in a given region. That shows that how many children are born. When you look into this across the world and in our country, we find that the birth rate is continuously declining. Then there is a death rate, which means that number of deaths per 1,000 people during a given period. Death rate has been continuously declining. After independence, there has been an increase in the life expectancy of the people. We have people who are living to a great age because of the advancement in the medical facilities, because of the improved health status, because of women education, because of increase in standard of the living, and so many other factors contribute towards the fact that now people are living to a greater age. There is a decline in the death rate, and because of which when we have such kind of instances where the birth rate is low and the death rate is low, it amounts to increase in population. Then we have immigration, which is also one of the important factors to consider when we look at why the population of the developed countries was once time more, because individuals move to the places which have more opportunities. There is emigration when individuals live in a place. So in the context of India, when we compare the rural and the urban population, then it becomes very clear that migration has an important role to play. You must have this information that in the year 2007, that was the first time where we saw that the number of people who are living in the urban areas were far greater than the number of people who are living in the rural areas. And by 2050, it is predicted that 66% of the world's population will be living in the urban areas. Are we prepared for this? Do we have the infrastructure ready to accommodate this large number of urban population? So these are some of the important terms which you must know, which you must know the meaning actually of these terms and what are the implications of these terms on the population of any region. When we know that we have been through all the data and all the statistics regarding the world population and status of India's population. When you look into it, you find that there are challenges. Why? Because the resources are not unlimited. When you look at the land resources, the water resources, they are not unlimited. And when on this limited scarce resources, we have the demands of this ever increasing population. Although it is another point of discussion where we find that it is not the number of people who are responsible, but also the way you live, the affluence of the people, the ecological footprint that the populations have. That also have a major role in deciding the status of the environment. However, broadly, because we are discussing the challenges of the 8 billion people on the planet. So broadly, we can say that the large number of people pose social, environmental and economic challenges. Social challenges are clearly indicated by the fact that there are social inequities and inequalities in the society, because we are living in a demographically diverse world where the avenues and the opportunities are not uniformly distributed. They differ across regions, across sex, across different habitat groups, and so on. It presents a social challenge where it is difficult to accommodate the social needs of the people. You must be knowing that this time the theme of the world population was unleashing the power of gender equality. That means around 49.5% of the world's population is women. And when we are not catering to the needs and we're not looking into the upliftment of that 50% or 49.5%, we are actually ignoring the social aspect of this discrimination. So that also poses the social challenge, and therefore the theme was rightly selected by the UN to see that how we are able to lead the world to a gender equal world, and we are able to have a peaceful and sustainable nations when we are looking into the needs of the women counterparts also. So there are social challenges not only in terms of gender but also in terms of other social groups, and it is important to look into the means and the measures so as to provide opportunities to every section of the people. That was not about gender but also among the different social classes groups that we have in the world. Of course, there are environmental challenges because we know that already we are competing for the scarce resources that we have: the land, the water, the food. These are the basic human needs, and we are struggling according to the studies. We would be needing 1.5 earths more if we have to live like the way the developed country citizens are living. So the resources are scarce, our demands are more number of people, we need more food, we need more space to live, we need more development which rests on the natural base. So there are environmental issues, challenges in the form of pollution, degradation, biodiversity, climate change, and the list is long. And of course there are economic challenges. Why? Because economics in the form of providing employment opportunities, livelihood opportunities, providing, raising the income of the people. According to today's news, it has been said that 400 million people have been lifted out of the poverty. The multidimensional poverty index of 2022 states that there has been a progress and 400 million people have been lifted out of the poverty in India. So there are the economic challenges also we face when we find that population is increasing, and it is increasing in a different fashion across the countries. Then how to provide them opportunities to grow? How? Because this has been the major cause of conflict between the north and the south, because we are plagued by this slow economic growth because of the population. And also we find that most of the developed countries, they already had a certain growth trajectory, the carbon emissions were more, and there the population now is less. But we cannot compromise on that, because we know that more than half of the carbon emissions, they are coming from the developed countries. And as we were discussing just before, that low income countries, sub-Saharan African countries, they are predicted to have a increase in population over the next decades, but their carbon footprint and ecological footprint is very, very less. However, in case of environmental challenges or disasters happening, they are the ones who are affected the most. So economically also it is very important to see that we are able to provide we are able to guarantee a safe and secure world, and it is important that the global community comes together to see. You must be knowing about the sustainable development goals. In sustainable development goals, particularly it has been stated that population is one of the major impediment towards the achievement of sustainable development goals. Particularly, all the goals are related to population, but particularly sustainable development goal 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, they are directly linked. Now see, if you are able to invest in gender equality, or if you are able to SDG 3 is basically global health and well-being. So if you are able to do that, then it is important that it becomes a cause and concern for the population, because if we are in a position to look at populations, then we will be able to also see that the targets for hunger, poverty, good health and well-being, gender equality, inclusive education, we are able to provide and we are able to fulfill these SDGs. On the other hand, this is also true that unless and until we have a educational opportunities or gender equality, unless and until it is not there, this is the first step towards seeing that the population is a resource and it does not pose any problem. So in a nutshell, what we can say today and what we can conclude is that the large number of people inhabiting the planet, what we have seen and we are continuously rising, that is happening because of so many factors, so many determinants we have seen. One of the important things is that we must remember that population is a resource. Instead of putting things as population explosion or population bomb kind of a thing, we must remember that population is not about numbers. It is about human issue. It is about that people's choices. It is about the way people are living. It is about creating an environment where every individual is free to exploit the opportunities and live a decent life. And unless and until we make proper measures, we will not be able to reap this demographic dividend, and it will be a demographic disaster. Thank you so much.
Indira Gandhi National Open University, accredited with A++ grade by NAC, provides you a quality education in open and distance learning. School of Performing and Visual Art is offering a wide range of programs in performing and visual art. Certificate program in painting, certificate program in applied art, certificate program in Bharatanatyam dance, certificate program in Hindustani music, Carnatic music and theatre arts.
बहुत यत्न करने के बाद भी नहीं पा सका।
संजोग से मैं इस बार लेके आया हूँ।
All the certificate programs are of 6 months duration with 16 credits. We offer 1-year diploma in theatre arts with 10+2 eligibility criteria of 32 credits. The learners are exposed to various aspects of elements of drama, theatre games, acting techniques, scene work procedures, and they will also have the opportunity to take part in a classroom play production. We also offer bachelor's degree in Hindustani music. This program is duration of 3 years, and learners are having the flexibility to complete this program over a period of 6 years. Apart from bachelor's, we also offer masters in drawing and painting with a duration of 2 years. Apart from certificate programs, degree, masters, we also offer PhD programs in performing and visual art with a specialization of visual arts, music, dance and theatre. Art is the perfect manifestation of every human being. So what you are waiting for? For online admissions, please visit our website www.ignou.ac.in. For more details, you can also contact Director, School of Performing and Visual Art, Block number 15G, IGNOU, Maidan Gadi, New Delhi. You can also reach us at sopva@ignou.ac.in. Happy learning!
मंदिराज आश्रम के चूहे पकड़े। तुम तो सचमुच राधा लगने लगी।
पता नहीं ये राजयोग कब तक रहेगा।
तो हमारी माया के लिए सुरक्षित है।
Dear learners, welcome to IGNOU. You are going to lead with a difference. So how do you lead with the difference? The unique